Have you ever had one of those days where everything goes wrong, where you wake up late, spill coffee on yourself, and end up yelling at the world's richest man in front of a plane full of people with phones ready to record? That's exactly what happened to James Chen, a brilliant but frustrated software developer who was about to learn that sometimes your worst mistake can turn into your biggest opportunity. What James didn't know when he boarded his flight that morning was that his angry rant about artificial intelligence was about to change his life forever. Sometimes the truth reveals itself in the most unexpected ways, even at 30,000 feet. James Chen woke up to silence. That was the first problem. There should have been beeping, lots of loud, annoying beeping from his alarm clock. He grabbed his phone and his heart stopped. 5:45 a.m. His flight to Austin was at 9:30. No. He jumped out of bed, tangling himself in his sheets and nearly falling face first onto his bedroom floor. This couldn't be happening. Not today. Not when he had to present his software project to potential investors tomorrow morning. James was usually super organized. His mom had always called him her little planner when he was growing up. He'd check his alarm 3 times before bed, lay out his clothes the night before, and pack his suitcase days ahead. But last night, he'd stayed up until 2 a.m. fixing a bug in his code. He must have forgotten to set the alarm. He took the world's fastest shower, threw on the first clean clothes he could find, and grabbed his pre-packed suitcase. At least he'd done that right. His apartment in San Francisco was small, but usually neat. Today, it looked like a tornado had hit it. As he ran around grabbing his laptop, charger, presentation materials, keys, wallet, phone, and passport, he muttered his travel checklist. Everything was there. He could still make it if traffic wasn't too bad. James rushed to his favorite coffee shop on the way to the airport. He couldn't face investors without caffeine. The line was long, but he couldn't skip it. While waiting, he checked his phone. His sister, Jenny, had texted, "Good luck with the presentation. Don't forget to smile." That made him feel a little better. Jenny always knew what to say. He was about to reply when the barista called his name. As he reached for his large coffee, someone bumped into him from behind. The hot liquid splashed all over his light blue shirt. "Oh man, I'm so sorry," the other customer said. James wanted to scream. Instead, he took a deep breath. "It's fine," he said, even though it wasn't. He'd packed another shirt in his suitcase, but now he'd have to change at the airport. The coffee shop gave him another drink with a very secure lid, but he'd lost precious minutes. Traffic was exactly as bad as he'd feared. Every red light seemed to last forever. The radio announced an accident on the way to the airport. James gripped his steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He'd paid a lot for this flight with the money he'd saved from his regular programming job. He couldn't miss it. He finally pulled into the airport parking lot at 8:45. Security lines stretched forever. James joined the slowest moving line in airport history. The woman in front of him took forever to remove her shoes. The man behind him kept bumping his suitcase against James's legs. "Your laptop needs to be in a separate bin," the security agent said. When James finally reached the front, he knew that. But today, his brain wasn't working right. By the time he got through security, it was 9:10. His gate was the furthest one possible. Naturally, James ran through the airport, his laptop bag bouncing against his hip, his rolling suitcase wobbling behind him. People stared as he sprinted past them. "Final boarding call for flight AA2547 to Austin," the announcement echoed through the terminal. James ran faster. He reached the gate just as the attendant was about to close the door. "Wait!" he called out, waving his boarding pass. Sweat dripped down his face. His coffee-stained shirt stuck to his skin. His perfectly styled black hair now looked like he'd been in a wind tunnel. The gate attendant looked at him with pity. "You made it just in time, Mr. Chen." She scanned his boarding pass. "Oh, looks like you've been upgraded to first class due to your frequent flyer status." Finally, some good news. James had been saving his points for months. A comfortable first-class seat would help him relax and prepare for tomorrow's presentation. He could change his shirt, review his notes, and maybe even get some sleep. He walked down the jet bridge, already feeling better. First class would be peaceful and quiet. He could forget about his horrible morning and focus on his work. The flight attendant checked his boarding pass and directed him to seat 2B. That's when he saw the man in 2A. He wore ripped jeans that probably cost more than James's entire wardrobe, but looked like they'd been found in a dumpster. His black t-shirt was wrinkled like he'd slept in it. Wild, dark hair stuck up in all directions. The man was hunched over a laptop, typing furiously, surrounded by papers covered in drawings of rockets and cars. James stuffed his suitcase in the overhead bin and sank into his seat. The scruffy man didn't even look up. He was talking into his phone about millions of dollars like most people talked about buying groceries. "Yeah, tell the team we need those batteries to cost 30% less," the man said. "I don't care if they say it's impossible. Everything's impossible until someone does it." James pulled out his own laptop. The coffee stain on his shirt was starting to feel cold and sticky. He needed to change before takeoff, but his seatmate's papers were everywhere. The man kept talking about electric cars, rocket launches, and gigafactories. Great, James thought. Just great. After everything that had gone wrong today, he was stuck next to some tech bro who probably got rich from his parents' money and now played with expensive toys. The man's voice was starting to give James a headache. As the plane began to push back from the gate, James closed his eyes. He tried to focus on tomorrow's presentation. His code could help make artificial intelligence systems work better and use less energy. It was important work, real work. Not like building fancy cars for rich people. The flight attendant came by with pre-takeoff drinks. "Anything for you, sir?" she asked. James's seatmate, with unusual respect in her voice, didn't respond, too focused on whatever he was typing. "Sir?" James wondered why she was trying so hard to get the guy's attention. When the man finally looked up, the flight attendant's face lit up like she was meeting a celebrity. James sighed and pulled out his presentation notes. It was going to be a long flight. At least things couldn't get any worse. He had no idea how wrong he was about that. The plane climbed through the clouds as James tried to concentrate on his presentation, but his seatmate's voice kept breaking his focus. "No, the solar panel efficiency needs to be higher," the scruffy man said into his phone. "Tell the team to push it to 26%. "What do you mean it's not possible? The math works. I checked it myself last night." James gritted his teeth. The man hadn't stopped talking since takeoff. Who was this guy to decide what was possible in solar technology? James had friends who'd spent years studying solar panels in graduate school. It wasn't something you could just figure out overnight. A flight attendant approached their row again. "Would you like anything to drink, Mr. M?" "Just water." The man cut her off without looking up, switching to another call. "How's the rocket production going? We need to speed up the assembly line." James's headache was getting worse. He'd forgotten his pain pills in his checked bag, and the coffee wasn't helping anymore. He needed to focus on his presentation. Tomorrow could change his whole career if he could just concentrate. "The neural network isn't learning fast enough," the man said to someone new on the phone. "The training data looks wrong. Start over." That caught James's attention. Neural networks were his specialty. He'd spent 3 years developing new ways to make them work better. This guy was probably just throwing around buzzwords he'd heard at fancy tech parties. "Listen," the man continued. "We need to reduce the computing power by 40% while maintaining the same accuracy. Figure it out." James couldn't help but snort. The man... Finally, he looked his way, raising an eyebrow. "Something funny?" he asked. His voice was deeper than James expected. "Nothing," James said, trying to return to his work, but the man kept talking about neural networks and optimization algorithms like they were toys he could just play with. The last straw came when the man started discussing Tesla's latest AI projects. He was saying things that made no sense to James, someone who'd actually studied this stuff. "That's not how any of this works," James finally exploded. Several passengers turned to look at him. The scruffy man put his phone down. "Oh, how does it work then?" Maybe it was the lack of sleep. Maybe it was the coffee stains still wet on his shirt. Maybe it was all the stress about tomorrow's presentation. Whatever the reason, James lost it. "You tech bros are all the same," he said, his voice getting louder with each word. "You play with daddy's money, buy some companies, and suddenly think you're geniuses who understand everything. Some of us actually work for a living. The first-class cabin went completely silent. A woman in row 4 gasped. The flight attendant froze in the aisle, holding a drink tray. But James couldn't stop. 3 years of frustration, watching investors throw money at flashy projects while his careful research went unfunded, came pouring out. You want to talk about neural networks? I've spent years optimizing them. You can't just throw money at the problem and expect results. The current models waste too much processing power because they're trying to brute force solutions instead of using smart architecture. James was on a roll now. He didn't notice the phones coming out to record him. He didn't see the shocked looks on other passengers' faces. He didn't even notice that he was giving away details about his own research in his anger. And another thing, your solar panel math is probably wrong because you're not accounting for real-world degradation factors. My friend Maria wrote her thesis on this. You can't just decide to improve efficiency by looking at numbers on a page. The scruffy man tilted his head, studying James with unexpected interest, but James was too far gone to notice. Do you have any idea how many brilliant engineers and scientists spend their whole lives working on these problems? Real people doing real work, not just throwing billions around and making impossible demands. A child from row 3 walked up to their row, holding a notebook. Mr. Musk, could I have your autograph? James's rant cut off mid-sentence. His mouth stayed open, but no words came out. The temperature in the cabin seemed to drop 10 degrees. The scruffy man, Elon Musk, smiled at the child. Of course, he said, taking the notebook. He signed it with a flourish and added a little rocket doodle. The kid beamed and ran back to his seat. James felt the blood drain from his face. His hands started to shake. Everything suddenly made horrible sense. The flight attendant's behavior, the phone calls about rockets and cars, the casual discussion of billions of dollars. He had just spent 5 minutes yelling at one of the richest and most powerful people in the tech world. Musk turned back to his laptop as if nothing had happened, but now other passengers were whispering and pointing. James saw at least 3 phones aimed in his direction. His own phone buzzed in his pocket, but he was afraid to look at it. The thing about neural network optimization, Musk said suddenly, still typing, is that sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. He glanced at James, even from angry rants on airplanes. James wanted to disappear into his seat. He wished he could open the emergency exit and jump out. Instead, he had to sit there next to the man he had just insulted for the next 2 hours. The flight attendant approached cautiously. Can I get either of you anything? I'll have another water, Musk said, and maybe get my friend here a coffee. He seems to have had a rough morning. He nodded at James's stained shirt. Friend? James felt dizzy. This couldn't be happening. His phone buzzed again and again and again. Something was very wrong. With trembling hands, James pulled out his phone and opened Twitter. His heart stopped when he saw what was trending. His bad day was about to get much, much worse. James stared at his phone in horror. The video already had 50,000 views and it was climbing fast. Someone in first class had recorded his entire rant and posted it with the caption, "Watch this guy lose it on Elon Musk mid-flight." He switched off his phone with shaking hands. Maybe if he couldn't see the video spreading, it wasn't really happening. Next to him, Musk continued working as if getting yelled at by random passengers was a normal part of his day. The flight attendant returned with their drinks. "Your water, Mr. Musk," she said, placing a bottle on his tray. Then she turned to James with a look that mixed pity with disappointment. "And your coffee, sir." "Thanks," James whispered. He couldn't meet her eyes. More passengers kept walking past their row on their way to the bathroom. None of them actually used it, though. They just wanted to get a closer look at the show. Some didn't even try to hide that they were taking pictures. A woman 2 rows back whispered loudly to her seatmate, "Can you believe how rude some people are? If I got to sit next to Elon Musk, I'd be asking about investment opportunities, not screaming at him." James sank lower in his seat. He opened his e-presentation notes again, but the words blurred together. How could he focus on tomorrow's meeting when he'd just become an internet meme? His phone buzzed again. He couldn't help himself. He had to look. "Jenny? James? Chen, is that you in the video? What were you thinking? Mom, call me right now, young man." Best friend Mike. Dude, please tell me that's not you trending on Twitter. James turned the phone off again. The noise from the plane's engines seemed to get louder. The air felt thinner. His coffee sat untouched, growing cold. Your optimization algorithm is interesting. James nearly jumped out of his seat. Musk was looking at him, actually looking at him for the first time since the rant. What? James squeaked. The part you mentioned about smart architecture versus brute force computing, you're right. Most current models waste too much processing power. Was this really happening? Was Elon Musk trying to have a normal conversation with him after everything that had just happened? Before James could respond, another passenger walked by, accidentally bumping into their row. Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Musk. I'm a huge fan of Tesla. That new Cybertruck is amazing. Musk gave a polite nod, but turned back to his laptop. James noticed something odd. The spreadsheet on Musk's screen showed figures related to neural network power consumption. Had he pulled that up because of what James said? No. That was crazy. Crazy. One of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the world wouldn't care about the angry ramblings of some random developer, especially not after being insulted in front of a plane full of people. The flight attendant came by again. We'll be serving lunch soon, Mr. Musk. We made sure to have your preferred meal available. She glanced at James. Sir, would you like the chicken or pasta? I'm not hungry, James mumbled. He'll take the pasta, Musk said, still typing. You should eat something. Seems like you've had a rough day. James wanted to laugh. A rough day? This was beyond rough. This was a disaster. This was career suicide. His phone vibrated again. He'd only turned it back on for a second. But that was long enough. Now his boss was calling. James let it go to voicemail. What could he even say? Sorry, I went viral for screaming at a tech billionaire about neural networks. More whispers reached his ears. That's the guy from the video. I can't believe Musk is so calm about it. My TikTok followers are going to love this. A kid peeked over the seat in front of them. Mom, is that the angry man from YouTube? James closed his eyes. YouTube now too? Now, how fast was this spreading? The flight attendant returned with their meals. The pasta actually smelled good, but James's stomach was in knots. He noticed she gave Musk his meal first, with a level of care usually reserved for handling priceless artifacts. As she served James's pasta, he saw her name tag, Maria. His eyes widened. Wait, Maria Jiang from Stanford? She paused. Yes, you wrote the thesis on solar panel degradation factors, the one I mentioned in He couldn't finish the sentence. Maria's eyes lit up with recognition, then confusion, then something like awe. You've read my thesis? Of course. Your work on microcrack formation under varying weather conditions was brilliant. James felt Musk shift in his seat beside him. Was he listening? Thank you, Maria said, sounding genuinely pleased. Not many people outside the field have read it. Are you still doing research? James asked, momentarily forgetting his current situation in his excitement about the science. No, I needed a break, but I miss it sometimes. She glanced at Musk, then back at James. You really know your stuff about solar technology. He knows his stuff about a lot of things, Musk said quietly, not looking up from his laptop, even if his delivery needs work. James felt his face heat up again. Right, the rant, the video, the social media disaster. Reality came crashing back. His phone buzzed yet again. This time it was an email from tomorrow's investors. Dear Mr. Chen, we've become aware of certain social media content involving you that raises concerns. We need to discuss whether tomorrow's meeting should proceed as planned. James's vision blurred. The pasta Maria had served sat untouched. The plane's engine hummed. His phone kept vibrating with new notifications, and Elon Musk just kept typing on his laptop, occasionally glancing at James with an expression that was impossible to read. The next hour and a half stretched ahead like an eternity, but James had no idea that the real surprise was still to come. James finally gathered enough courage to check his phone properly. As soon as he turned it on, it buzzed nonstop for 30 seconds straight. Hundreds of notifications poured in from Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and every other app he had. With trembling fingers, he opened Twitter first. His heart nearly stopped. The video of his rant had gone super viral. 3 million views and climbing. People had already turned parts of it into memes. Someone had even set his angry speech to music. But that wasn't the worst part. As he scrolled through the comments, he noticed something strange mixed in with people calling him rude and telling him he'd never work in tech again. There were other comments. Wait, did this guy just solve the neural network efficiency problem while yelling at Elon? Timestamps 1:24:145. He's actually brilliant. Listen to what he's saying about smart architecture. Can someone in AI explain what he meant about processing power distribution? Because it sounds revolutionary. James's mouth went dry. He hadn't realized how much of his research he'd revealed during his angry outburst. 3 years of careful work, all his secret breakthroughs, he'd blurted them out at 30,000 feet while yelling at the world's richest man. Speaking of whom, James glanced sideways at Musk, who was now drawing something that looked like a computer chip diagram on a napkin. More tweets caught his eye. AI researcher, whoever this angry guy is, he just described a solution my team's been working on for months in a rant on a plane. Chat Tech Journal sources say multiple AI companies are trying to identify the angry plane guy to offer him jobs. Elon Musk, sometimes the best technical feedback comes from unexpected places. Interesting discussion on neural network optimization at 30,000 feet. James nearly dropped his phone. Elon Musk had tweeted about him. He checked the timestamp. It was from 20 minutes ago, which meant Musk had posted that while sitting right next to him. Sir, Maria, the flight attendant, was back. I've had 3 passengers ask me to give you their business cards. She held out a small stack of cards. They're all from tech companies. James took the cards numbly. One was from a major AI research lab, another from a self-driving car company, the third from a solar panel manufacturer. His phone buzzed again. This time it was his sister, Jenny. James, have you seen what people are saying about your technical ideas? This is insane. Also, Mom's mad you're trending on Twitter, but Dad's already telling everyone his son's going to work for Elon Musk. Work for Elon Musk? Yeah, right. He'd be lucky if he still had his current job after this. He opened his email again, dreading to see more messages from tomorrow's investors. Instead, he found 15 emails from tech recruiters. The subject lines all referenced the plane video and wanted to discuss opportunities. Your neural network architecture suggestion. James jumped. Musk was talking to him again. The one about redistributing processing load based on pattern recognition? How would you handle the initial training phase? Was this a test? A joke? Some kind of elaborate prank? James stuttered, because I've been running some numbers. Musk continued, turning his laptop screen slightly. Your approach could reduce power consumption by up to 60% if implemented correctly, not the 40% my team was aiming for. 60%? James stared at the screen. Those were his equations. Well, not exactly his equations, but Musk had somehow reconstructed the core concepts just from James's angry rant. James tried again. The initial training phase uses a hybrid approach. You start with traditional methods, but implement the smart architecture in layers, like teaching a kid to walk before they run. Musk nodded, typing rapidly. Show me. Before James knew what was happening, he was drawing diagrams on napkins, explaining his research to Elon Musk, the same research he was supposed to present to small-time investors tomorrow, the same research he'd been trying to get people to notice for years. The same research he'd accidentally revealed while having the worst day of his life. More passengers walked by their row, phones out, recording. But now, they weren't just filming the guy who'd yelled at Elon Musk. They were filming Elon Musk and that guy having an intense technical discussion about artificial intelligence. Hold on, Musk said, pulling out his phone. Get me the head of AI development now. James felt like he was dreaming. This couldn't be real. Yeah, Musk said into the phone. Remember that efficiency problem we couldn't solve? I'm sitting next to someone who figured it out. No, not one of our engineers, the guy who just yelled at me about neural networks. James's phone had stopped buzzing. He looked down and realized why. His battery had died from all the notifications. Maria came by again. We're starting our descent into Austin. Also, Mr. Chen, there are reporters waiting at the gate. Apparently, someone told them you're on this flight. Reporters. James felt the panic rising again. He wasn't ready for this. He just wanted to give his presentation tomorrow and maybe get some small investors interested in his work. Now, his research was trending on Twitter. Tech companies were fighting over him, and he was discussing neural networks with Elon Musk while reporters waited to interview him about those. "Reporters?" Musk said, hanging up his phone. "Want to give them something interesting to write about?" James looked at him blankly. "Because I have a proposition for you?" Musk continued, "One that might make this the best, worst day of your life." The plane began its descent into Austin. James's phone was dead, his presentation for tomorrow was forgotten, and Elon Musk was about to make him an offer that would change everything. Sometimes, James would later realize having everything go wrong was exactly what needed to happen for everything to go right. The plane descended through clouds as James tried to process everything that had happened. His coffee-stained shirt felt like it was from another lifetime. Had it really only been a few hours since he'd woken up late? "We'll be landing in 5 minutes, Maria announced, stopping by their row one last time. "Mr. Chen, the captain wanted me to let you know that airport security can escort you through a private exit if you'd prefer to avoid the reporters." James nodded gratefully. At least someone was being kind to him after his meltdown. "That won't be necessary," Musk said, still typing on his laptop. "He's with me. With me." James's head spun. What did that mean? His dead phone felt heavy in his pocket. He couldn't even call Jenny or his parents to tell them what was happening. Not that he knew what to tell them. "Hey, Mom, remember how you always said my temper would get me in trouble?" The plane touched down with a gentle bump. As they taxied to the gate, James could see the news vans through the window. "How had they gotten here so fast?" "Your neural network design," Musk said suddenly. "Have you tested it?" "Only in simulations," James admitted. "I couldn't get access to enough computing power for a full-scale test." Musk nodded like this was exactly what he'd expected. "We have the computing power, what we don't have is the right architecture, until now." James's heart beat faster. Was Musk suggesting what he thought he was suggesting? The seatbelt sign dinged off. Everyone stood up, but no one moved toward the exits. They were all watching James and Musk, phones ready to record whatever happened next. A flight attendant approached Musk. "We have a golf cart waiting to take you to your car." "Good. Tell them we need room for 2. James stumbled as he stood up. This couldn't be real. Maybe he'd actually missed his flight this morning, and this was all some strange dream. But the cameras flashing through the plane windows were very real. So was Elon Musk, gathering his napkin drawings of James' neural network designs. They walked through the airport together, surrounded by security. James heard people shouting questions. "Mr. Musk, what do you think about the viral video, sir? Are you pressing charges for harassment? Is it true you're offering him a job?" Musk ignored them all, typing on his phone as they walked. James tried to make himself as small as possible. The golf cart whisked them through back corridors of the airport. James hadn't even grabbed his suitcase from the overhead bin. Would he ever see his stuff again? "Your presentation tomorrow," Musk said as they rode. "Cancel it." "What?" "But I've been prepping for months. Those investors can't give you what you need." "We can," Musk looked up from his phone, "unless you'd rather stick to your original plan?" James thought about the investor's email, threatening to cancel the meeting anyway. About 3 years of trying to get anyone to take his ideas seriously, about explaining his research through angry shouts at 30,000 feet and somehow finally being heard. "What exactly are you offering?" he asked. "Full research funding, access to our AI labs, a team to help implement your architecture." Musk paused as the golf cart stopped at a private exit. "A chance to prove that your idea works." A sleek black car waited outside. More reporters stood behind barriers, cameras flashing. "I don't understand," James said. "Why would you help me after I yelled at you in front of everyone?" "Because you were right," James blinked. "What about the neural networks? About throwing money at problems, about needing smart solutions instead of brute force." Musk opened the car door. "And because anyone who's willing to tell me I'm wrong to my face usually has something worth listening to." James stood there, frozen. Through the tinted windows of the car, he could see a laptop set up and ready. His equations were already on the screen. "So," Musk said, "ready to change the future of AI?" Behind them, reporters shouted more questions. James's phone was still dead in his pocket. His presentation notes were forgotten on the plane. His coffee-stained shirt was a mess. And none of it mattered. because sometimes the worst day of your life could turn into something completely unexpected. Sometimes being late, spilling coffee, and losing your temper could lead you exactly where you needed to be. James took a deep breath and got in the car. His sister was never going to believe this. The car's interior was cool and quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. As they pulled away from the airport, James watched the reporters getting smaller in the rear window. Here, Musk handed him a phone charger. "You'll want to let people know you're alive. Your sister seems particularly worried. She's been tweeting at me for the last hour." James plugged in his phone with shaking hands. As it powered on, he noticed Musk studying the laptop screen, where his neural network diagrams from the napkins had been converted into proper technical drawings. "This connection here," Musk pointed at the screen between the primary and secondary processing layers. "That's the key, isn't it?" James leaned forward. "Yes. Traditional networks waste power by treating all data equally. My design recognizes patterns and adjusts processing resources automatically, like a brain." "Exactly. Our brains don't use the same amount of energy to recognize a tree as they do to solve a math problem. They adapt. That's what I've been trying to." James caught himself starting to raise his voice again and stopped. Musk smiled. "No, keep going. Just try not to yell this time." As the car wound through Austin streets, James found himself explaining his research in detail. His hands moved as he talked, drawing invisible diagrams in the air. All the frustration of being ignored for years poured out, but this time as excitement rather than anger. "The big companies keep trying to solve AI problems by adding more computing power," James said. "But that's like trying to make a car go faster by just adding more engines. At some point, you need to improve the design itself." "Speaking of cars," Musk said, "how familiar are you with Tesla's autopilot system? I've read the public papers. The neural network is impressive." But James hesitated. It could be more efficient, a lot more efficient. Instead of being offended, Musk typed something on his phone. "Tell me more." For the next 20 minutes, James explained how his architecture could revolutionize not just Tesla's AI systems, but any neural network. His phone buzzed constantly with messages, but he ignored them, lost in the technical discussion. The car turned into a private parking garage beneath a sleek office building. As they got out, James finally checked his messages. "Jenny, OMG, James, Elon Musk just liked my tweet about you. What is happening? Mom, the neighbors keep calling about you being on TV. Call me right now. Dude, you're trending higher than the latest Marvel movie. Also, you left your suitcase on the plane. I got it. Maria, the flight attendant, helping me, ready to see what you'll be working with?" Musk asked, leading the way to an elevator. "Working with? I haven't agreed to anything yet." "True, but you will." The elevator opened directly into a high-tech laboratory. Screens covered the walls, displaying comp diagrams and streams of data. In the center of the room, a large holographic display showed a 3D model of what looked like a neural network in action. "This is our AI development lab," Musk explained. "We're trying to solve the same problem you described on the plane, how to make neural networks more efficient." James walked around the hologram, like his mouth open. This was better than any lab he'd ever worked in. "Your current job," Musk said, "how long would it take you to get approval to test a new idea?" "Months," James admitted, "if I'm lucky." "Here, you can test it today." James turned to face him. "Why? Why are you doing this? I insulted you in front of everyone." "You insulted what you thought I represented," Musk corrected. "But more importantly, you were passionate about the actual problem. Do you know how rare that is? Most people just tell me what they think I want to hear." A group of engineers entered the lab, then stopped short when they saw James. "Everyone," Musk announced, "this is James Chen. You might recognize him from Twitter. He's going to help us solve our efficiency problem." The engineers whispered among themselves. James heard one say, "That's the plane guy." "Show them," Musk said to James. "Show them what you were telling me about the adaptive processing layers." James looked at the holographic display, then at the curious faces of the engineers. His coffee-stained shirt suddenly felt very out of place in this high-tech lab, but when he started explaining his ideas, none of that mattered. The engineers gathered around, asking questions, suggesting improvements, and building on his concepts. For the first time in his career, James wasn't being ignored or dismissed. He wasn't struggling to get anyone to listen. Instead, some of the best minds in AI were treating his ideas with genuine interest and respect. "I need to make a call," Musk said, stepping away. "Keep going, and James," he turned back. "Try to solve their neural network problems without yelling this time." As Musk left the room, James found himself at the holographic display, deep in discussion with the engineering team. His phone had stopped buzzing. The chaos of the morning felt distant. He was right where he belonged. But there was still one more surprise to come. James lost track of time as he worked with the engineering team. They'd moved his neural network designs from napkin sketches to the holographic display, and the simulations were running better than he'd ever dreamed. "These efficiency numbers can't be right," one engineer said, staring at the results. "The power consumption is down by 75%. "It's right," another engineer confirmed. "The adaptive processing layer redistributes resources exactly like a human brain would. It's so obvious now that someone's thought of it." Someone, James thought. The guy who'd woken up late, spilled coffee on his shirt, and screamed at Elon Musk on an airplane. His phone had finally stopped buzzing. The last message he'd seen was from Jenny. "Mom's calmed down. Dad's already telling everyone to buy Tesla stock because his son's going to revolutionize the company. No pressure." The lab doors opened and Musk returned, followed by several serious-looking people in business suits. "Show them," Musk said. James walked the group through his design. This time he was calm and confident, no yelling needed. His ideas could speak for themselves. When he finished, one of the suits stepped forward. "Mr. Chen, are you aware of what this technology could be worth?" "I haven't really thought about it," James admitted. He'd been too focused on making it work. "We have," Musk said. He handed James a folder. "This is our offer." James opened it and his eyes went wide. The number had more zeros than he'd ever seen in his life. "That's just the starting bonus," Musk added. "There's also stock options, research funding, and your own development team." James sat down hard in the nearest chair. "I don't understand. Why all this? Why me?" Musk smiled, because 3 years ago I gave a speech about the future of AI. I said we needed to make neural networks more efficient, more like human brains. I said whoever solved this problem would change everything. "I remember that speech," James said slowly. "I was in graduate school. It's what inspired my research." "I know," Musk replied, "because you quoted it during your rant on the plane. You said, and I quote, 'You can't just throw money at the problem and expect results.' You said it yourself." 3 years ago, James felt his face get hot. I did. You did. And then you proceeded to explain exactly how to solve the problem I've had teams working on for 3 years, all because you were too angry to be nervous about sharing your ideas." The engineers laughed. Even the serious business people cracked smiles. "Sometimes," Musk continued, "the best solutions come from unexpected places. Sometimes it takes someone who's willing to tell me I'm wrong, someone who cares more about solving the problem than impressing the boss." He turned to the business people. "That's why the offer is so high, because Mr. Chen here didn't come to us with a polished presentation and a practiced pitch. He came with pure passion for the work, even if that passion came out as frustration first." James looked at the offer again. "This would fund my research forever," Musk finished. "Build your team, develop your ideas, change the world. Just try not to yell at me in public again." One of the engineers raised a hand. "What about the flight attendant, Maria? The one with the solar panel thesis?" "Already contacted her," Musk replied. "Offered her a position in our solar division." "Anyone else want to mention some hidden talent I should know about?" The room erupted in laughter. James felt a weight lift from his shoulders. This was really happening. His phone buzzed one last time. A new email from his old investors. "Mr. Chen, regarding tomorrow's meeting cancellation, we understand. Congratulations on your new position. Would you be interested in discussing investment opportunities in your next venture?" James smiled and deleted the email. He looked around the lab, his lab now, and at the team of brilliant engineers ready to help bring his ideas to life. "So," Musk said, "ready to sign?" James thought about everything that had led to this moment. The missed alarm, the coffee stain, the angry rant that had somehow changed his life. He picked up the pen. Sometimes the worst day of your life turns out to be the best day in disguise. Sometimes being late, making a mess, and losing your temper puts you exactly where you need to be. And sometimes, just sometimes, yelling at a billionaire on an airplane turns out to be the best career move you never planned to make. James signed the contract. His mom was going to kill him. His dad was going to frame the Twitter video. His sister would never let him live it down. And he couldn't wait to tell them all about it after he changed his shirt. And there you have it, friends, a reminder that sometimes our worst moments can lead to our greatest opportunities. James learned that passion, even when it comes out as frustration, can change your life in unexpected ways. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below. I'd love to know which part of the world you're enjoying this story from. Did you ever have a bad day that turned into something amazing? Share your story. If this tale of redemption brought a smile to your face, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps spread more stories of hope and unexpected kindness to others who might need to hear them. And if you want to catch more stories that remind us how life can surprise us in the best ways, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Together, we're building a community that believes in second chances and the power of being genuine, even when things don't go as planned. And remember, the next time you're having a terrible day, you might just be one honest outburst away from changing your life forever. Stay kind, stay passionate, and see you in the next story.